Whoa, check out the nipple action on Jack of Hearts. This issue's pretty spicy. Today we're looking at issue 4 of Sensational She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell, and now we've got Ig Guara joining us for the art duties. She-Hulk isn't exactly the superhero that I know the most about, but I did finally manage to find this graphic novel from 1992, which reprints John Byrne's first 8 issues of the seminal She-Hulk series. You gotta get the older graphic novels before they started printing on glossy paper with the redone coloring that's super flat and not the way the artist intended for it to look. But don't worry, I'm not just gonna do a one-to-one comparison of John Byrne's groundbreaking She-Hulk series to Rainbow Rowell's stuff now, because that wouldn't be fair. This new series is something entirely different. It's just in a different genre. It's closer to romance. It's still really lighthearted like Byrne's run was, but there's nowhere near as much breaking of the fourth wall in this series, and it's a little bit more wholesome. In issues 2 and 3 of the series, we had the He-Hulk show up, and he helped throw down with this crazy lady who had turned herself into another She-Hulk, and it was this whole thing that, honestly, I didn't find all that interesting. And even though I'm a big fan of Jen Bartel's work, I don't love the way that she portrayed him on the cover, and I also don't really love the way that he's drawn in the interior work, because it makes him look like he's on like a Saturday morning cartoon, like he's not threatening at all. But for what the series is trying to do, the writing so far has been pretty strong. And even though issue 4 was almost entirely dialogue and it had no action in it, it was still very well done dialogue. I don't think that comics need to have action in them to be good comics. If you want to write a comic that's basically a sitcom, go for it. It's a lot easier to make a comic than it is to produce a whole TV show. So in this issue, She-Hulk is dealing with most of the city suddenly hating her because she just had a big fight in the last couple issues and she destroyed a city building, and I'm not sure how much of the block was destroyed. But anyway, people are afraid of her and she feels really self-conscious. So she spends a good chunk of the issue going out to dance with Hellcat and Captain Marvel. And it's more or less a girls' night out comic, but the tension that we have between Captain Marvel and Hellcat feels authentic. It feels like their characters might actually have these problems with each other, but they're also not just being overdramatic. They're handling it like adults, and that's refreshing to see. In the last She-Hulk series and continuing into this series, we see the Jack of Hearts, who has mysteriously returned from the dead yet again, and not many characters really know that he's alive. They don't want to go around telling everybody, which makes sense because the last time he showed up, he killed Ant-Man. So there's some believable drama around She-Hulk being involved with Jack of Hearts, but it's not overdone. I think that over the course of this issue, Rainbow Rowell does a good job of balancing a lot of personality quirks that all these characters have and a lot of small concerns they have that are planting seeds for bigger issues later in the series. And there's also quite a few good one-liners that actually land. This issue is pretty funny. Now, just like I can't compare it to John Byrne's work, I also can't compare it to, like, Secret Wars or Civil War, because the scope of this series is so much smaller than those series were. So it's not like some giant blockbuster that's blowing my mind, but it is a pretty solid run on a solo character. It's not just taking up space, it feels like character development for her. Ig Guara is an artist that I'm sort of familiar with. I've read a few of his things before, and I generally like it. He's one of those artists where I think he really shines in his penciling work, and once you ink it and add color to it, it kind of diminishes the artistry of it. Like, I'm not a big fan of finished artwork where it looks like for the inking process you just used a pencil tool on a computer to go over everything again. Like on this chair here, it looks kind of like pencil work, not ink work. I'm really just a fan of nice calligraphy-inspired, thick, dark ink lines. That's what I want to see. But I understand that the industry is kind of moving away from that and more towards the art style in this series, which is okay. It's an era. It'll change. I think for most of the issue, the art isn't exactly iconic. I wouldn't say that Ig Guara is really shining as the artist only he can be in this issue. It's kind of just typical modern Marvel artwork throughout most of the thing until the last page, which I'm not going to show you because I think you should go buy it for yourself. But there's some really well done creepy art on this last page that makes you go, oh yeah, this is a superhero comic. So I honestly found myself enjoying this issue. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, but it is a solid installment in the serialized adventures of She-Hulk. Yeah, there's no action, but what are you gonna do? Cry about it? So I'm gonna give issue 4 of Sensational She-Hulk, not the whole series, just this issue, a 7 out of 10. It's pretty solid. It's not reinventing the genre, but it is good character work and it's good reading. But really, it's almost like Ig Guara is concerned with male nipple awareness. Look at how much effort he puts into drawing Jack of Hearts' nipples. Did you read it? What do you think?